Rain hammered down on the cracked asphalt as Daniel Brooks stood in the shadow of the billionaire's mansion, drenched to the bone, staring at a car that looked more like a corpse than a machine. Its hood was bent, its engine rusted, and its interior smelled of rot and despair. But Daniel wasn't looking at the car. He was looking at the woman who had just spoken, her voice colder than the rain itself. "Fix this car, and it's yours," the billionaire, Evelyn Hartman, said. Her sharp blue eyes gleamed like ice behind the curtain of falling rain. For her, this was entertainment. For Daniel, it was survival. Before we dive deeper into this story of faith, grit, and redemption, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of hard work, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the beauty of never giving up. Daniel was 34, but life had aged him twice as fast. His hands were rough, his fingernails blackened by years of work, and his back carried the weight of every unpaid bill and every sleepless night. He owned a small, failing workshop at the edge of town, a place more rust than roof, where old engines went to die. Once, he had dreams of building his own car designs, of giving his daughter a better life. But those dreams had been buried the day his wife, Anna, passed away. Since then, his world had shrunk to two things: the sound of engines and the soft voice of his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, who still believed her father could fix anything. But lately, Daniel could barely fix dinner. The rent was overdue. The landlord had given him one last warning. His tools were dull, his debts deep, and his spirit close to breaking. Then, that evening, fate knocked on his door, not gently, but with the roar of luxury engines. Evelyn Hartman was not the kind of woman who visited places like his. She was the CEO of one of the largest automotive empires in the country, a billionaire who built her fortune on machines that combined elegance with precision. She was known for her intelligence, her cruelty in business, and her icy detachment from emotion. When her convoy's prototype car broke down on a remote road, Daniel had been the only mechanic nearby. He fixed her flat tire in minutes, quietly, efficiently. But when she noticed the skill in his hands, she decided to test something far deeper. "You think you're a mechanic?" she said with a smirk. "Then fix that." She gestured to the old car behind her, a once glorious prototype that her own engineers had declared impossible to repair. The deal was simple. If Daniel could fix it overnight, he could keep it. If not, she'd pay him nothing and walk away. It wasn't a deal. It was a dare. That night, Daniel dragged the wrecked car into his dimly lit garage. The rain drummed on the metal roof like a ticking clock counting down his hope. Lily sat nearby on a little stool, wrapped in a blanket, watching her father quietly. He opened the hood, and his heart sank. The car's engine was more than broken, it was dead. The wiring was burnt, the pistons fused, the circuits beyond recognition. Even with brand new tools and parts, it would take weeks. But he had neither. Still, Daniel began. He scavenged every corner of his workshop, pulling out rusted bolts, old valves, and broken pieces he could reshape. He heated metal with a torch, hammered it into place, and used his bare hands where tools failed. His fingers split open, oil mixed with blood. The hours passed. The rain turned to mist. The bulb above him flickered like a dying star. Every time he felt his strength fade, he looked at Lily, sleeping softly in a corner, holding her little stuffed bunny. And he remembered her words earlier that evening. "Daddy, you can fix anything." So he kept going. By midnight, exhaustion blurred his vision. His hands trembled as he rewired the engine by memory, replacing melted circuits with hand-soldered copper scraps. He used parts from broken bikes, old radios, even Lily's toy car to replace missing connectors. It wasn't perfect, but it was alive. By dawn, the sky turned pale gray. The car looked no different on the outside, but inside, it had a new heart built from scraps and stubbornness. Daniel closed the hood, wiped his hands on his torn jeans, and turned the key. Nothing. He turned it again. The engine sputtered, coughed, and went silent. His heart dropped. He closed his eyes, whispering a prayer. He turned the key one last time. This time, the engine roared to life. Rough, uneven, but alive. Tears welled in his eyes as Lily woke up, clapping her little hands. "Daddy, you did it," she laughed. Daniel smiled weakly. He had nothing left to give, but he had given everything. When Evelyn Hartman's black limousine pulled up that morning, Daniel stood beside the car, his hands still trembling. She stepped out, perfectly dressed, her heels clicking against the wet ground. Her expression was unreadable. She walked around the car slowly, her eyes scanning every line, every surface. Then she opened the door, sat behind the wheel, and turned the key. The engine came alive with a low, steady hum. For the first time, Evelyn's cold composure cracked. Her eyes widened slightly. She pressed the accelerator. The car responded smoothly, as if reborn. She stepped out and stared at Daniel. "How?" she asked quietly. Daniel simply said, "Because I had to." There was silence. Only the sound of the rain and the car's steady idle filled the air. Evelyn looked at the mechanic, the man who had turned scraps into strength, despair into hope. Something in her shifted. Maybe she saw her younger self, the woman who once worked in her father's dusty garage before success hardened her heart. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a checkbook. "How much do you want?" Daniel shook his head. "I don't want money. You said if I fix it, it's mine." Evelyn hesitated. Then, slowly, she nodded. "It's yours." But as she turned to leave, she stopped. "Daniel," she said softly, "would you be interested in working for me?" Weeks later, the same garage that once smelled of rust and despair now gleamed with new tools and light. Daniel had been hired as the lead mechanic for Hartman Motors' restoration division, his skill and humility inspiring everyone he met. But more than that, his story spread beyond the walls of his workshop. It became a story of hope, that no matter how broken life feels, determination can always bring it back to life. Evelyn Hartman, the woman once known for her coldness, often visited his shop. She never admitted it out loud, but every time she watched him work, she smiled faintly. That car, the one he brought back from the dead, still sat in her private collection, untouched, a symbol of something she'd forgotten long ago: compassion. Sometimes, miracles don't come from heaven. They come from greasy hands, sleepless nights, and hearts that refuse to give up. And when the world tells you something is impossible, remember Daniel Brooks, the poor mechanic who fixed a car no one believed could ever run again. And, in the process, fixed more than just an engine. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share it with someone who might need a reminder that second chances are real, and that no act of hard work ever goes unseen. Speech balloon, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Daniel's place? Because sometimes, the smallest spark of determination can turn a broken life into something extraordinary.